It's time to talk about money and talk about opportunities in general. So, before we get started, Caitlin, can you just introduce yourself, share more about your newsletter, and what I think most people may not know about you, even if we followed you for a really long time?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Caitlin Arford, and I run the Freelance Opportunities newsletter. It started as a feed of Twitter links. I would just share opportunities as I found them, and then it just grew naturally into a much more official newsletter today. So I curate and I share paid opportunities for all kinds of freelance creatives. So journalists, writers, designers, social media pros. If you're looking to make money freelancing, follow me because you can probably find a new opportunity there.
Yes. And Caitlin, if you can drop when you have a moment to drop your link directly there, people could just boop, click, and tap. That would be great. So you can get those people to sign up. So let's get started because I feel like, 2025 has been challenging, in I don't know if it's been challenging in the great way, but it's been challenging nonetheless. And I want to talk about the biggest misconceptions because I think that a lot of times we may be hearing rumors, or we may be seeing a lot of stuff happening. Like I know there were lots of layoffs this year, and the landscape is shifting. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you're seeing right now when it comes to finding opportunities, and specifically in like the gig work, the freelancing economy?
Yeah, great question. There have been a ton of layoffs, like you mentioned, and every layoff creates new freelancers who are now also looking for work because a lot of people go from a layoff to becoming a freelancer themselves. It can also mean that there's fewer opportunities available because as newsrooms and organizations shrink, sometimes they just don't have the budget to hire someone after they've gone through layoffs. Um, and I see people who are really worried about this economy and how AI is affecting everything. And I think that they're correct to be concerned. I think things are really shifting a lot this year. But I never struggle to fill up my newsletter with opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities there. It's just that things are shifting. So, instead of just being hired for regular work where you're just like maybe writing an article for something or delivering some kind of asset to a company, now freelancers can get hired more to work with AI to develop things for different companies. So, since so many companies are trying to use AI in their workflows, that's kind of opened new doors there. And you can get hired to do more strategy work now. A lot of companies are now turning to fractional and freelancers to develop new strategies for them, especially when they don't have the money to afford someone full time. They'll go with hiring someone part time or freelance.
That's really interesting because similarly in the grad space with federal government, everyone was panicking. My husband was like, "Do you have a job at Grants for Creators?" I was like, "Of course I do. Of course I do." There's shrinkage and there's shifting doors and changing, but there's also new opportunities that come as a result of those changes. So I think that thank you so much for highlighting that. And in the grad space, I've noticed that primarily, number one, I'm not a huge sharer of federal funding opportunities anyway. So that hasn't really stopped anything that we're doing over here on this side. But I've noticed that there were more people, individuals, businesses, small and big, who were like, we want this journalism, art, theater to continue. And we're going to put our own money and fill that gap. So people are standing in between that gap, which is a whole new opportunity and a whole new world that wasn't around last year or years prior because the federal government was taking a lot of, giving a lot of funding. So things shift and change, but there are new opportunities as well. What do you say about that?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I've had more people, especially in the journalism space, email me to have grants included in my newsletter. And that doesn't typically happen. And it's because so many nonprofits are seeing the pain that people are going through right now and they're trying to figure out how to do it. I'm even seeing some more micro grant opportunities from really small publications where they're like, we don't have a ton of money to pay people, but we can do a little $500 grant and we'll do it maybe quarterly or maybe twice a year. And so there's some different ways to get funding now that just really didn't exist a year ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shirley says, brilliant idea. And we have Greg says, a dumpster fire. Yes, all of those are great, great descriptions of all the things that are happening. But I think for our main conversation today, it's like we want you to feel encouraged and we
Mm.
want you to feel like you can still thrive in all of this uncertainty because 2026 is around the corner, right? Like, we don't know what's going to happen in 2026, but we're resilient. We can figure things out and we just keep it pushing and keep it moving, you know? So, all really important things. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people want to pick our brains about like, how are we able to find hundreds of opportunities on such a consistent basis? Because I think the thing about our newsletters is like we're not fly by night. We're not like, oh, we just showed up and then we ghost you for 3 months. And no, we are in your inbox on a consistent basis with new gigs and new opportunities. So, Caitlin, can you talk us through like how can we find good opportunities and how do you know like what's a good one for you?
That's a good question. I spend a lot of time on social media and job boards and emailing companies to see if they need freelancers. So for me, a lot of the research comes from just looking around at what's happening and then developing relationships with people who hire freelancers regularly. For me, though, as I'm vetting opportunities, especially if I'm finding them on social media, I'm looking to see if this person is legitimate. That is something that's shifted so much from the past year because AI is here. So now there are people who will sometimes create AI profiles or try to create spam and try to, take advantage of freelancers and people who are looking for work. So I have to do a little bit more vetting just to be like, is this a real person? Do they have a website? Do they have a online presence? So that's like the number one thing I'm looking for these days. I'm also looking at the company itself because there are some companies that I don't include in my newsletter because I know that they're known for not paying freelancers well. They don't pay freelancers on time. There have been some companies that will go bankrupt and then, you've got freelancers who will just never get paid. So a lot of it is just vetting to see like accurate a brand is, how ethical they are with how they treat people, and how legitimate the opportunities are.
And I think this is as a subscriber, I feel like we don't think about this. When we get a list of, 100 opportunities that we're shifting through, we're not thinking about the time and effort it took to vet, right? And filter. And each of us, we have our own filters that we're going to say, we're going to share things like this, and we're not going to share things like this for whatever reason that we have. Like, for example, for me, I don't share anything that doesn't have money in it. So you may get like there may be, let's say, a pro bono service where you're going to get a trademark search, which I find I'm like, that's amazing. I'm not sharing it with you in my newsletter because that's not the focus of my newsletter. That's not the focus of what I do. So I think that it's one of those skills that it takes a lot of time and effort. And I see you, Caitlin, like, especially on LinkedIn, you're like, what's the dollar amount payment? I'm like, go, Caitlin.
I spend an embarrassing amount of time on LinkedIn, and so much of it is that too, especially since there are some people who will be like, "I'm hiring," and then it sounds like a great opportunity, and then you're like, "Okay, they actually are talking about like $100 total." And this is like sometimes people have really unrealistic budgets, and so for me, I like to push for pay transparency, but part of why I do that is just to be like, how legitimate is this person about hiring people right now? Do they have their shit together enough to pay people and treat them with respect? Because that's one of the main criteria. And some places just don't have the budgets. And I'm with you too on like, in terms of like how people apply to things, because there are opportunities that I've looked at, and then it's like, we want you to pay $50 or $7 or be a paid subscriber to our newsletter. And I'm like, well, if you've got a financial barrier in place, you've got some exclusion in place, which is going to affect how you hire freelancers. I don't support that. I don't think it's a valid opportunity to include. So I don't. So yeah, I think what you do, especially Danielle, because I see this in the grant space a lot too. Like some of them are a little bit more unrealistic or they charge too much money to apply to something. You have to be really diligent about seeking out all that information.
Like that is like me and my team of two. It's just me and Cielo, and Cielo just joined the call. So hi, Cielo, good to see you. Like our team of two, like we are constantly talking back and forth when we're about to publish something, and be like, does this fit? Is this real? Is this creator focused? Because there are opportunities, for example, that will support innovation or like restoration of a building, and most creators don't have actual physical property that we're managing. So that filtering is so important. And we filter things as we share them. But I do think that every creator, journalist, freelancer needs to have their own filters as well to know this is for me and this is not for me. So, for example, for your newsletter, I look at that top piece, like, which I love the new format, by the way, which I
Oh,
feel like it's been for a while, but I'm just loving the format. Um, yes, but I look at that top piece where it's more of like the journalism opportunities, and I may kind of scroll down to look at the podcasting things, but for the most part, I'm really dialed in on what I'm looking for. And for me to get there, I have to know me. I have to know my business and my skills so that I can find the right stuff for me.
absolutely. I do that too as a writer. I really look into what a company is doing, if it aligns with my values, if they're known for treating people well. There have been a couple of times where I've thought about reaching out to a company to pitch them a story or to maybe work with them regularly, and I will absolutely message other freelancers and say, "Hello, can you give me some down low, real talk information about like what it's like to work with these people?" And you'll get so much information that like you just don't even know exists. Like there was an opportunity that I thought was really low paying, but the freelancer I was talking with told me that the editors are great. It's great for giving you more opportunities in the future. So I was like, well, that makes me think about this a lot differently. I would have written an opportunity and not even tried. So connect with people, build a community because freelancers, it can be really lonely sometimes, but I think that being able to turn to other creatives and talk about what the process has been like to apply for a grant or how working with a company has been, that's invaluable and that will help you build a business more than anything else.
So important. So, so, so important. And that's a problem that I'm hoping to solve after this summit because I applied to a lot of grants, but I'm lonely. I'm like, I don't have nobody to talk to. I probably cried 2 times today and no one is gonna hear me wallow. So I do think that building community is so important and keeps you in the game. And it just again it keeps you can help each other when you are in community with other people, which I think is an amazing funding and opportunity strategy. So one of the tips I always share with people is tell people like, hey, listen, I'm looking for grants and funding opportunities. If you see anything in this round, be specific, let me know, please. And you'll be so surprised by how many people will just DM you on Instagram or text you because they know that you are interested in this kind of thing. And then vice versa, like reciprocate, share things that you find. And that's how we build community. So referrals and chatting could be a great way to find leads and opportunities as well.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important too to dial down on your messaging because if people know what niche you work in and what you're wanting to tackle next, then they know what to send your way. I mean, I've had so many different like coffee chats with people this year or just from following people online. I'm like, well, I know this opportunity isn't for me, but this person was looking for a lot more tech writing opportunities. So let me send it her way. It doesn't harm my business at all to help someone else. I think it's good for everyone. And I think at the end of the day, for as much as people talk about this being a competitive space, we're all in it together. We're all trying to grow and there's enough money out there for everyone to be successful.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Poster on a billboard. That is 100% accurate. Annie says, thank you for doing that research. Very powerful. Musings with Myra says, yes, thank you for that. We need to know salaries. That's important. We need to know
Mhm.
salaries and budgets. And budgets is critical. Sister Vegan Foundation says the extent of SHIT together is very important. Listen, there's a lot of not so great stuff out there. So important. Cielo says, hello. Hi, Cielo. So good to see you. Cielo's our grant manager. So she does literally like all of our database, all the polish. She makes me look good. So I appreciate Cielo so much. Musings with Myra says, women need to run the world. Thank you, Myra. Stephanie says, yeah, Stephanie says, just joining. What is the newsletter they have? Caitlin, if you could drop your link again. So Caitlin, do you want to just kind of give a quick little blurb again about your newsletter?
Yeah, of course. It's freelance opportunities, findfreelanceopportunities.com. And it is just a long list of freelance opportunities for anyone who's multi passionate or wanting to get started as a creative. You can get started today and just find some new legitimate leads that you can use to fund your business.
Absolutely. Shirley says, thanks for this convo. I'm officially following Caitlin. Yes, that is good stuff. Jeanette says, loving this conversation, which is awesome. Let's grow together, says Sister Vegan Foundation. Yes, together is better. That is amazing. Thank you for all the love in the chat. We love and appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to continue chatting. So I want to know about, let's see, what another question we have here is, what are the trends? What are you seeing in the forefront, especially as I mean, we're here, we're Q4. Today is Q4. My gosh. So what are we thinking? What have you seen for the past year, and any predictions on what you think is coming up next?
Ooh, good question. I'm seeing a lot of layoffs, which suck, but the counterpart of that is that then people are in a position where they can grow something. So there's a lot more independent creators, a lot of independent journalists, a lot of worker-owned newsrooms, and all of those places where they've branched out to work independently are now building their own thing. So they now need freelancers to collaborate with, right? So I just hired an assistant for the first time. I know you work with someone. So I mean, like, all of us who are out there doing something creative, we now need creatives to work with. So you might find your next opportunity from just like working with someone who's self-employed. I'm also just seeing a lot of companies that are using AI, but I'm more than that, seeing companies that are shifting more from just like using freelancers for one-off assignments. They're more interested in having partnerships with people. They want to work with someone who is as invested in getting their company to whatever goal they're at as they are. So they want to work with freelancers who are invested in what they're doing, ready to be partners, ready to do some strategy work or to come up with like new ways of communicating with people. So I think the shift is going to be more from like doing assignments in the freelance world and more to offering strategy as a service. So it's a great time to really be upskilling and to really be upselling your services instead of just, you know, kind of downplaying what you do. Instead of saying if you're a freelance writer, I would say you're a freelance writer, you're a media entrepreneur, like think more strategic level.
Okay. Caitlin dropped those key words. Okay, I'm writing it in my notebook. Media entrepreneur. Because, like we mentioned, like a lot of us, we wear many hats. Like
Yeah,
podcaster, blogger, newsletter curator, research. Like it's just a lot. There's a lot going on. So we cannot sell ourselves short and downplay. And I really love how you're mentioning that strategy may be part of the job description now,
yeah,
right? Like I feel like as things are shifting, if our old mentality of weighing do of things like can keep us from finding opportunities or getting that next gig because we're kind of like, well, I never did strategy work before, but that's what we
mhm.
have to do now to be competitive, you know?
Yeah, and I see that thought process from people all the time where they're like, "Well, I don't know strategy. I've never worked in-house as a strategist or as a content manager." And I'm like, "Well, if you've worked with like 5 different brands, you've gotten a peek behind the curtain at 5 different brands, and this company doesn't have the insights that you have right now. So lean into it. It's cool now to be a freelancer. It's cool to be fractional. It's not like on the outskirts the way it was a long time ago, right? Like my family might not understand what I do, but they know it's a legitimate thing, you know? So don't downplay what you do. I mean, seriously, too, like that's where the money's going to be. Like you can make a lot more money developing strategies and doing higher level work for people instead of just doing the one off assignments where they might have a cap at like how much their budget is for that kind of stuff.
Sister Vegan Foundation says, let's also make joint ventures to get those grants and opportunities. We're already on it. This is a joint venture already, right? So I love that. Stephanie says, I love reading and trading grant apps for feedback. I love that. So important. So important. I think personally, and I could answer those questions on the trend side myself. I think that I think it's still to be left to be written what's going to happen in the grant space in terms of the federal government. But like I mentioned, like you don't need them to continue to fund your creative business. There's plenty of grants outside of the federal government. I do think that like the federal government does kind of like shift the markets a little bit in terms of funding focus sometimes. So for example, in the previous administration, we saw a lot of sustainability, environmental opportunities, and now that's a lot less, right? So I do think that there is some trickle down effect, but again, if there is an opportunity out there for you, you just have to have improve your mindset and have an abundance mindset there. And then another trend, I think that there's more application fees now in grant applications.
Mhm.
And we kind of been talking about this on Threads a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan, and I'm still trying to decide exactly how my policy will be for my newsletter about them. Because in one way, I don't want to police people to be like, well, there's a fee. You may want to pay the fee. I don't want to police people, but I personally feel like grants are there to support a need, and me paying a fee is countering that need, if that makes sense. So I'm still, yeah.
Well, I'm with you, and it's frustrating too because you can't shop with your own wallet, right? Like, I might not be able to afford something, but someone else might be willing to pay whatever the fee is and the chance of getting a really, high ticket grant. So I'm with you. It's really tricky, and it's honestly very disappointing to see how many companies and brands and small ventures are willing to stack up like a little fee. And I'm like, well, if you have to have a fee from people to help fund this grant, then do you really
Do
have.
you have the money to fund this grant? Yeah. So
Yeah.
here's I don't know for a fact. I don't know for a fact, but my theory is that they are using the admin fee to pay their staff, to fund this actual grant as well. And I think because, again, that trickle down effect from the federal government, they are kind of forced to figure out additional income streams. So this is potentially the one of the ways that they want to do this. So that's like my theory. I don't know. I don't think it's a coincidence that the federal funding went down and then the admin fees went up in that way. But as creatives, we get to decide how we want to partake in this game. You can have a policy where you're like, I'm not going to pay for grant application fees. And you can stand on business and that's fine. Or you could say, you know what, I'm going to carve this amount of money per year to pursue. But I haven't seen much data that supports paying an application fee and the success of winning. I don't have the data, but I don't think that it's less competitive in the paid space. I just feel like people, you're just kind of competing with, a smaller group of people, but it's still competing. So that's my theory.
No, I that's so helpful to hear too, to be honest, because that does make sense. Like, they would be also be affected by all the funding that's not available from the federal government right now. So yeah, it's a frustrating position for everyone. This year has had a lot of challenges, right? Like, I don't think you and I are immune to that. We've all noticed everything happening, but I still have a lot of hope for the future. I think that this year is making people think about how they fund their creative lifestyles a little bit better. I see a lot more people diversifying how they do it. But I do agree that grant applications are kind of competitive right now. So, Danielle, how do we stand out in grant applications?
All right. Okay. So this is it's loaded, but I'm going to unload the clip. Okay. So a couple things. I feel like back in the day, and I'm talking about like 2 years ago, not a long time ago. Okay. So back in the day, I would apply for grants and I would be super like, this is what I'm doing, how I'm going to use the funds, and call it a day. What I've learned though is that grant funders are looking for alignment fit. So when they have a pot of money for their grant, they have a mission and vision. And through that grant, they want to see that mission and vision realized. Okay. Through you, through your winning project. So it's not just a pot of money to typically like just pay your rent, which we all need. We all want to get our mortgages paid. And I understand that. But it's really thinking about me and the funder are a partner. We're in a partnership together, and through my work, I can fulfill our mission.
Mhm.
So funder fit is the most important thing when it comes to even thinking about pursuing a funding opportunity. So what I recommend here is go on their about page, look at their mission, look at their vision, and literally highlight the words that speak to you. Highlight the words that you feel like, ooh, this is exactly what I'm doing. Like for me, one of my brands is financial literacy. So if I see that on a vision, I'm going to highlight that and snatch that and put it in my grant application. We want to show them that like we are doing similar work here. And if you fund me, I'm going to be able to help move this initiative and project forward. So that's really, really important. I think another way that I've personally stood out this year is by applying. I cannot tell you how much you'll learn and grow as a communicator, as a writer, as a pursuer of grant funding by just practicing. I can tell you all this stuff, but you have to sit down and do the work. And this year, I have made a challenge for myself where I'm applying for as many opportunities that I feel like I'm in a good fit for. And based off that, I have figured out my pitch. My pitch is way stronger. I've become a faster grant writer. It takes me way less time to actually put applications through together. And I may have a couple wins to talk about, not today, but I have a couple wins, recent wins to share soon. Um, but it's hard because you will hear a string of no's and it will test your resilience. It will test your, you know, should I even do this? Like, should I even be spending this 3 hours on grants? Like, I could be figuring out a freelancing gig, all of that. So I think those are the things to stand out. Primarily is to keep applying. Now, what I've found also is that once you get a win, you can rinse and repeat that win and compound it over and over and over and over again because you nailed it. You got someone, a stranger, to say, "I want to drop $5,000 to support your work." That's powerful. So use that, repurpose that application, repurpose what you're doing there. That again will help you to compound. And I have lots of examples of that. I don't know. How did I do? Did I answer that question? Is there anything else?
No, that's such a good answer. I had never thought about, like, making sure that you're tying your grant application to, like, the goals of the organization, 'cause, I'm always so focused on myself when I'm writing those things, but no, that makes sense. You gotta show them that you know who they are, that you care about whatever the initiative is, and that you can execute the vision that you're proposing. So, brilliant ideas, Danielle.
I used to just look at the application itself, right? The pages that we send links to, I would just read it. And then a grant writer was like, you gotta go deeper. And then once I unlocked that, I was like, oh my gosh, like it sounds simple, but a lot of us, we didn't go to school for this. Like, it wasn't like we had a class in college or, in like elementary school about grant funding. So it's kind of new territory in many ways, which leads to my next idea is that think about this as a journey. And Caitlin, you can let me know if you feel of the same. But for me, it's a grant funding journey. And I need to be investing not only time in applying, but time in improving my craft. So yesterday I was at a conference, a summit, like in my a couple hour, like an hour away from here, and it was all about pitching and grant funding because I need to be learning. I can't just rinse and repeat the same grants that weren't getting funded. I need to shake things up. I need to sit in on pitch competitions and literally see the feedback. Like, there is a journey. And I feel like as long as we are trying to improve as we are moving forward, the wins are inevitable.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think a lot of creators really undervalue the passion and the importance of self-improving all the time. I just went to a conference about a month ago and it was incredible, not only because I was learning, but because I was connecting with so many creators who do something similar to me or something different than me. And the conversations that you can have with other creators alone can really help you think differently about your business and think bigger in terms of like how you get money and how you build things out in the future. And I think it goes back too to like, in the pandemic, we were all online all the time. We're working solo, so we're probably at home a lot. And I think getting out of the house and connecting with people and that alone will make such a big difference for you. So like use YouTube, learn new things, join all the webinars. I mean, I learned for free as much as possible when I was starting to be a freelancer. And like looking back at when I got started, I'm like, 2016, I sent so many bad pitches that I didn't realize were bad. But if I didn't send all of that, I wouldn't have gotten used to all of the rejection or just the practice of applying all the time. And sometimes the effort is the achievement.
That is, and that's hard, right? When you are in a sea or series of rejection, it feels like the effort feels futile, right? But I always say, like, if I didn't keep going, I wouldn't even have that potential to tap into that opportunity, right? Like, I know people who have, for example, they've been on my list for like 2 years and now they're starting to like apply for funding. And to me, it's like, it doesn't matter if you feel like in the past you weren't on it. As long as you make a decision and you're like, I'm going to give this a try and I'm going to see this through, like you mentioned, there's effort, but there's also payoff. And like I mentioned, I feel like for me, I've been keeping track of things outside of grant wins. So, of course, I want to be a 6-time grant funded creator. Of course, I want that. But I also am tracking things like how much time is it taking me to complete applications. So in January 2025, it would take me like 4 to 5 hours. Now I'm down to 2.5, 3 if it's a big one. That is improvement. That is telling me that I'm so dialed in. It's not taking me hours and hours and hours to do the same task that I used to do before. You know what I mean? So I also think in your journey, find things that you can track so that yes, we want those wins, we want those clients, but what else can you track and improve and you can feel like you're making progress as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm so with you. It helps so much to be organized because if you're starting from scratch every single time, it's going to take you a lot longer than it really should. So, like all of the information that grants are always asking you for, that should be somewhere, right? Like when I'm writing for a new editor, I know they're going to ask for a headshot and a bio and some of the tax information. So, I have a folder on my desktop where I have all of that. So, I don't have to be spending hours just trying to gather that stuff together so that I can start writing assignments for them, right? So, like, being organized and being on top of everything, it's kind of annoying sometimes, but, like, it will make your life so much easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have some comments and questions, so let's get to those. Stephanie asks, by the way, when I say ask, it sounds like ask, but it's an S. There's a K there. There's a K. Okay. Stephanie is asking if you're multi hyphenate, open to different freelancing opportunities. Any thoughts about how to set up your website? This is probably on your Substack, so point us that direction if you have a resource like that.
Good question. I recommend having your portfolio set up. So wherever you have a website, and yes, you should have a website if you're freelancing, and have different pages about the different kinds of services that you have. So, for example, I've got a friend, she does a lot of content editing, but she'll also do some social media management. So she has different pages set up for those different services so that she can send a specific page on her website to whatever client is interested in her services. And then all of that information is tooled towards winning that client over. So just think about what kinds of questions people are going to have on their minds when they're hiring you. They're going to look at your LinkedIn, they're going to look at your website. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile has the kinds of keywords of things that you want to get hired for in your headline, which is right underneath your name on LinkedIn. It's really easy to do. Update your about on LinkedIn. I don't know all 100 of you who are in here, but I can probably guess that 75% of you have not updated your LinkedIn in the past 6 months, right? And it's important because it's
Dang,
not,
Caitlin, you're calling us out. You're calling us
I got to be honest. I got
out.
to be honest. 'Cause guess what? That's where the people are. Where do you think the rich people with budgets are? They're on LinkedIn. And it's not as boring as it used to be, which is good. But it's also just one of those places where they're going to check to see if you're legitimate. Do you have your shit together? Do you look like the person I should hire instead of the other 10 people whose portfolios I'm actively reviewing right now, right? So you got to do you and make sure that you're protected by having all of that stuff in place.
Question: do you feel like freelancers need resumes in 2025 and beyond?
So I don't think here's the deal. For the most part, I don't think you need one. Most of the time, people aren't asking me for a resume. Most of the time, when people are looking for freelancers, they're saying, Send me a link to your portfolio. Send me like 3 clips of work you've done. So make sure you have that available on your website. Make sure links are updated. Make sure you have any work you've done updated, especially as layoffs happen. Sometimes things are lost from client websites and you don't want to screw yourself over. So have a portfolio, have a pitch ready to go, just like a little sample bio about who you are, have a good LinkedIn, have samples of your past work, have testimonials from past clients. They don't ever ask me for testimonials, but you better believe that I have those on my LinkedIn page, on my website, everywhere. I'll share them on social media. Makes a difference because you need people who can vouch for you and what you do. Um, in terms of having a resume alone, though, most of the time you don't need it, but there are some companies that are kind of like antiquated and they're like, we don't really use this, but we still require it, you know? So sometimes you just have to have one, like update it once or twice a year. It doesn't have to be super fancy. It's really more of a formality.
Yeah, I recently updated my resume the first time in 10 years, and I was just like, "Oh my." ChatGPT helped me, so that was very helpful, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, do you not know who I am? Do you not know how many projects I run?" It is a bear, so I am so happy you answered that question, and this also ties into the grant piece because freelancing opportunities, these hiring managers, they are doing their research. They're checking up on you to make sure that you are the person for them for this opportunity. Grant funders are doing the same. So your brand identity is so important for you to be like not only legitimate, but you're doing the work. So when you, let's say, hop on my social media, you will see lots of travel, but a lot of times I'm talking about grant opportunities and I have different like for example, any features I'm doing, any podcast episodes I'm doing. Like, I'm building a brand and serving my people through the work I'm doing. And funders really care about that, which is
Yeah.
why they're asking for give me your Instagram handle. They want to see, they want to see, they want to see your LinkedIn. So just kind of keep that in mind. Sometimes it's not just what you write on paper or the video you submit, they are also looking at your online presence as well.
Well, and so many people will lurk too before you've even applied to something. They'll just be kind of following you online and then they might reach out of the blue. So, like, you don't have to be a robot or be super professional online all the time. Show your personality, show who you are, because the values you have and the personality you have might help you attract people who are aligned with your vision who want to work with you. So, yeah, I 100% second everything you're saying, Danielle. It's so important.
I love that. Oh my gosh, it's almost 12:45. Caitlin, I know we're supposed to be hopping off soon, but I'm going to ask a couple of questions to see if there's anything in the chat that we could answer. So if you have any questions, y'all, this is the time to drop it in the chat. Ask me or Caitlin. We're happy to answer your questions here. Let's see. Did I miss anything? How important is having a robust website? I feel like we answered that, Caitlin, but do you want to just kind of answer that again?
It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I used a free WordPress website when I was starting out, but you do need to have something in place and it just has to be accurate and updated.
Okay, that's really, really important. And let's talk about rejection briefly, because that is so important. Any thoughts on how to keep going and stay encouraged?
Okay. You mentioned tracking everything earlier. I do the same thing. I call it my rejection tracker, but you can call it your pitch tracker, whatever. It's just a spreadsheet where I keep track of all the people I reached out to, all the pitches I've sent. And it helps me when, if I'm running out of work a few months down the line, I know people that I can reach out to again to follow up on pitches, see if anything happened there. Um, But to be honest, like, it can be it can really be hard when you're just not hearing back and you're like, "I've spent 5 hours a day doing completely unpaid labor, and I hate my life so much." So I like to remind myself that, like, the effort is just as important as getting a yes, because sometimes even if something I'm sending out doesn't work out, sometimes people will remember my name from their inbox and then email me down the line to be like, "Hey, I remember you. This is a completely different opportunity, but we thought of you." Like, so you might open doors that you didn't realize were closed.
And I think that 100% resonates, which is why this conversation is so fun because opportunities, whether it's freelancing, client work, or grants, a lot of the things are similar there. And in terms of rejections piling up, like I give myself a day. Well, for the most part, I don't have no emotion. I'm just neutral. I'm just like a machine. Submit, submit, nah, nah, nah. Like September, I submitted 10 grants and I was like, It is what it is, and it is. For the most part, I was very neutral and calm because I'm like, I'm not gonna put too much emotion into this right now. On the off chance when I do feel sadness, I will have a day of sulking. And I tell my family, I'm sad today. Don't try to lift me up. I'm sad. Okay. I'm sad. I might do a little cry. I might go for a walk. Like, you will have emotions. And I say not to like bury it, acknowledge it. Like, we are not just machines. Like, we are real people. We have emotions. But I personally cap it. I'm like, I had a day of sadness if I cared. Okay. If I cared, I have a day of sadness. Tomorrow, the work continues because, like, we know there's more stuff out there. So don't put, for me, my big takeaway is don't put too much emotional energy. You want to give it your all and have a high quality submission. But if for the most part, if you can, submit, keep it moving, submit, keep it moving. And then when you find that win, use that to carry you forward.
Yes, yes, and also with wins, keep track of your wins. I have a folder on my desktop that's like compliments, and I'll turn to it sometimes when I'm like, I just need a quick lift me up. Or I'll straight up bribe myself like a child, Danielle. I'll be like, okay, well, if I send a couple more pitches, I'll go get ice cream later this afternoon, you know? Sometimes you got to trick your brain into making a negative experience into a positive one.
Okay, one more question. One more question. Jetta asks, how do you go in for a cold project? So you don't have a relationship with them and you're gonna go in to submit their pitch. Any quick tips and thoughts for freelancers here?
Good question. I try to be familiar with them, so I'll follow them online, kind of get a sense of like what they're looking for, what they've asked for in the past. And then if a pitch gets accepted, great. If it doesn't, sometimes I'll ask and say, do you have any feedback? Is there something in particular that you're looking for that I'm not really pitching right now? And sometimes editors will share a little bit more insider baseball information there so that you can better pitch them in the future. And in terms of like assignments, one of the first things I like to ask people is like, do you have a style guide or any documentation that I need to know? How do you like to receive information? What are the deadlines like? And I also like to give myself a little bit of grace with deadlines with people. If when you're starting with a client, it's going to be a little bit different. So give yourself a little bit more time than you technically need.
I love that. Okay. We are ending with 111 people. I feel like that's a magic number, which is so beautiful to see. Caitlin, thank you so much for celebrating this inaugural summit with me. I couldn't have again thought of a more aligned, and I really do admire your work. I look up to you. You're like a newsletter that I truly look forward to every week. So thank you for all. I know it's a lot of work. So thank you for every single ounce of energy that you put into the work that you do. How can we connect with you? And if you do have any like guides or anything, 'cause there's some couple more questions in the chat, let people know where your resources are.
Yeah, of course. Findfreelanceopportunities.com. I'm going to send out another edition today, but my email is caitlin.arford@gmail.com. Feel free to follow up with me afterwards, and I'm happy to connect with you and help you as much as possible. And Danielle, everything you do is so impressive to me. I don't know a ton about grant writing or anything, so you are the person that I turn to when I'm trying to learn more about applying to grants and when I'm looking for grants for my own purposes. So thank you for everything you do too, because I think the newsletter and community that you've built around it is just incredibly impressive.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I see another collab in our future. So let's keep in touch. We're going to keep in touch and keep going. There will be a replay to this in a couple minutes. So stay tuned. Subscribe to Caitlin's newsletter. You'll hear about it. I'll email you all with all of her details and have a wonderful day. I'm going to apply for a grant right now. So you have work to do. But so good to connect with you, Caitlin. Thank you so much for everything. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Always good to connect with you. And thank you for the opportunity to chit chat about this today. This is really
I
joyful.
love it. I love it. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye, Caitlin. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.